Hello, everyone. Welcome for joining us at this webinar today. A very warm welcome. I just wanted to let everybody know if you're here, please feel welcomed. If you want to get a last glass of water or run to the toilet, you can. We're going to start in a couple of minutes as participants enter. So we hope to start in 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome and thank you for joining us for this exciting webinar. Today, we're going to talk about how to shorten your time to market, and the theme is transforming medical hardware into connected care devices. Brought to you by BioT and co-hosted by Medical Valley and MedScaler. I just want to let everybody know you can ask questions in the chat feature. Please be aware we have a chat feature and a Q&A, but please do use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen. And at the end, there will be a Q&A session moderated by my colleague, Gijs Langkamp. This webinar is being recorded, so please do be aware of that. And the recording will be with you in 48 hours. And be aware that in one of the emails it said that you should switch on your video, but this is not possible because we're in this webinar, so be aware that this is not necessary for you. So that being said, again, a warm welcome to all of the speakers today, as well as the audience. And let's dive into the first introduction. My name is Robin Tourneman. I will be your moderator today, and I'm part of MedScaler. MedScaler is an international health innovation platform based out of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And we co-hosted this webinar together with Medical Valley and BioT. Our purpose in life is to help medical, medtech and digital health startups and scale-ups to enter new markets We do this in the Netherlands, a nice tiny country in Europe, as well as in Belgium, in Germany, and we also run projects in North America. If you'd like to know more about us, you're very welcome to find us on LinkedIn or visit our website. And I'd like to introduce to you our other co-host of today, which is Medical Valley. So please give the floor to Medical Valley.
Thank you very much, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome also from my side to this webinar today. My name is Jonas Friedrich, and I'm a project manager for Medical Valley. Medical Valley is an association that is a leading innovation ecosystem in the area of healthcare management, and we are located in Erlangen in Germany. We have been accompanying entrepreneurs from idea to market for more than 20 years now. In principle, we are acting as a one-stop shop with a great service portfolio, including, for example, incubation space, event management, access to venture capital, and consultation for internationalization. Medical Valley is an association with more than 220 members, bringing together players from different sectors, for example, industry actors like Siemens Healthineers or Novartis, but also startups, healthcare providers, research institutions, and further distributors, politicians, investors, and patient organizations are members of our network. Also, we are a partner of the great EIT Health Network, through which we got to work on this fantastic project with BioT and MedScaler, where we are supporting market access in Germany for BioT. So if you have any questions about Medical Valley, please do not hesitate to contact me. I'm very much looking forward to an informative webinar today. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jonas. So it is my honor to introduce to you our two speakers of today. We have in our middle Hanan Drobiner from BioT, Global Business Development Manager, as well as Ran Shifran, VP Marketing and Business Development at Neteera. Welcome again. Thank you so much for being here today. Hanan, maybe starting with you, could I please ask you to briefly introduce yourself to the audience today?
Thank you, Robin, with pleasure. Happy to be here. My name is Hanan Drobiner. I've been 15 years on the commercial side of medical device companies. Different kinds, different aspects, all the way to last year where I joined the BioT at the beginning of last year and shifted from a B2 hospital to a B2B kind of a business model, happily, I might say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hanan. And then we have Rani with us. Welcome, Rani. Could I please ask you to also briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Robin, and thank you for having me today. As mentioned, I'm the VP Marketing and Business Development at Neteera. I have more than 30 years of business development expertise in the medtech field, bringing dozens of medical technologies to global markets. And happy to present Neteera today.
All right, wonderful then. And I think we will start with a short poll, actually. So I'm calling on the audience. Probably there is a lot of technical people in here, entrepreneurs, medtech professionals, and I'm very interested to learn a little bit about your journey as well. So I'm going to launch a poll where I would invite you to please click, because we're very interested to learn where on the journey you are and whether you think you will transform your medical device building your own software, or whether you're planning on actually partnering with a platform as a service provider. In this webinar, we will be diving into the differences in those two options and tell you a little bit. I see a lot of votes coming in. Please make your selection as I'm going to close the poll. I see a lot of votes, still votes coming in. I'm going to close it now. So just quickly sharing the results with you. I hope everybody can see them. We see a lot of people that are actually considering partnering with a platform as a service provider. So that's very exciting. You're at the right address today to learn about this. And also for people that plan to build their own platform, I hope you can get some inspiration today and make a well-informed decision. That being said, we're going to continue with the program. So thank you everybody for so actively voting. And Hanan, we're going to start with you. You're an expert in remote patient monitoring. Why is it so much of a priority now, Hanan? Could you enlighten us a bit in there?
Well, several reasons. One, healthcare cannot be provided now and in the future as it was provided in the past. Obviously, diseases, aging population, more diseases, a longer lifespan, and more diseases that come with age put a heavy burden on hospitals. So hospitals have to reinvent themselves and find ways of treating people without occupying beds, because beds, hospitals, and rooms are a limited resource. The last 2 years taught us something about remote and social distancing. So the bad aspects of the negative aspects were social distancing because of COVID, but the positive aspects were that people who didn't need to come to the hospital or wasn't a must were encouraged to stay outside the hospital, but you still need to monitor them. You still need to find ways of knowing what is happening with them on a daily basis, sometimes on a continuous basis, and sometimes on a ad hoc kind of way. So this all accelerated people being pushed out of hospitals in order not to get cross-contaminated and get other illnesses and other diseases, and staying at home. And actually, seems like patients prefer it because they sleep in their own bed, they eat their own food, and they stay with the family and friends and the community support. So it's a win-win. And this is a trend that is growing and will keep growing because hospitals cannot continue functioning the way they are.
Yeah, no, this is of course amazing to enable recovering in the safety and comfort of your own home whilst being monitored at a distance. This is very much 2022. Thank you, Hanan. Rani, then on to you. You're part of Neteera, and I think you recognized or some of the challenges which you're here to share about today. Could you already tell us a little bit about those challenges?
Yeah, a little bit about Neteera. Neteera has developed a platform technology, hardware technology, to be able to monitor patients contactless. Now, the development, the hardware development was obviously painstaking, and because we developed our own chip on radar on chip, sorry, a high frequency radar on chip. It's actually the only high frequency radar in the market today. Now that's just part of the solution, the hardware solution. Obviously, a lot of algorithms have gone into this and developing. So we're able to monitor different vital signs, including heart rate, respiration rate, sleep apnea, and in the future, we will be releasing blood pressure as well. And again, this is all done contactless. The company itself is already in commercial stage, received initial regulatory approvals in the fall and launching in global markets today. The challenges we faced were how to get to market quickly and developing the software algorithm and the whole platform solution. And that's when we turned to BioT.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Rani. Is this, Hanan, is this something that you recognize as well in the market when companies are trying to develop their own RPMs?
So yes, Neteera have an exceptional product, but they're not an exception of the rule. Companies with hardware, with devices, they want to go to a connected care, remote monitoring solution. But once they move into that direction, there are so many questions that they have to ask themselves and answer. And each question is obviously a challenge. One challenge is, how do you collect the data? What makes sense? What is allowed? Who can see what kind of data? Because healthcare providers should be able to monitor a patient with a name and a face, but you as a medical device company need to get data to train your algorithms or apply your algorithms, but you should not see any identifiable information about the patient. So how do you do that? Now it's connected across the cloud, cybersecurity. I mean, it's breachable. So someone needs to protect that. How do you do that? So Neteera made the choice and decided to trust BioT with that, but it's a choice and it's a question for the audience. How do you do that? Then how do you maintain the platform? It's a lot of people, a lot of programmers, a lot of DevOps people that need to daily update the different aspects of the platform. Now you want to build your workflow or the disease flow for a hospital, but then you want to change it a little bit for another customer, another hospital. So how do you do that? Do you have programmers constantly programming different types of solutions for different customers, doing customizations? Another question, you want to develop algorithms, or you already have developed algorithms, but you want to integrate them in the workflow. How do you do that? When do you do that? You want to have alerts in the system. You want to send alerts to the physician. You want to send alerts to the patient. These alerts might be linked to biomarkers. So body temperature is too high, or for a week it's been high, or the blood pressure is too low today, or for the last week it was a little bit low. How do you do that? So again, it's a lot of hustle, and it's not necessarily the know-how of the medical device companies. They know their hardware, they know their customers and patients, but in the middle come all these questions. And these questions come with answers. There's right, there's wrong. It's different from company to company, and they come with a cost. It's people that have to be paid to do that, a lot of them. It's hardware that has to be paid, and the company has to decide what portion of the technology stays in the hardware and what portion of the technology moves to the cloud. There are pros and cons. Obviously, we are in favor of a cloud because it allows to do the data science easily. It becomes easy to share different types of data with different third parties for development, for commercial, for partnerships. Easier to update. Once you update the algorithm and the software and you do everything on the cloud, then all the devices basically follow. You don't need to go and update different devices at different stages. So many challenges, I would say, many questions.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey of many challenges to transform these devices into true connected care platforms. And this is actually, Ronnie, what we would like to talk to you about as well, because you went through this journey at Neteera. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how Neteera works exactly.
Yeah, as mentioned, it's a platform solution that includes a hardware sensor, a radar, that is actually able to pick up vital signs through skin motion. That data is then transmitted to the cloud, where we have our algorithms, and then it's from there it can be transmitted to any display, whether a mobile phone, a tablet, a laptop, or even a nurse station. If you're looking at a whole, if you want to look at a whole department and the several patients in parallel. The device itself, next slide, Robin. The device itself is able to pick up skin motion, and it can do that through clothes and through specific furniture pieces as well. meaning the patient does not have to do anything special to be able to be monitored. The sensor is able to work 24/7 once operational. The parameters we're currently monitoring with the sensor are heart rate, respiration rate, inhale-exhale ratio, and all of that is being done in continuous and spot check modes. We also have a BioID algorithm, which is able to differentiate between people, two different people, if people interchange their position in front of the sensor. We're also working on clinically validating and releasing additional parameters, such as sleep apnea, atrial fibrillation, blood pressure, and others. And again, that needs to go through a clinical process, regulatory approvals before we can add that. But it's a simple add-on once you have the sensor, because we just added to the cloud platform. And that's one of the things we've gotten through the BioT solution, that any upgrades can be seamlessly done as far as the end user is concerned. So again, it's a whole solution with additional plans for taking this forward even further, and that's where we utilize the BioT solution.
Yeah, very interesting, and I see that your device is indeed empowered by BioT's platform, which is very interesting. And maybe Hanan, can I ask you to explain a little bit on how exactly BioT was able to resolve the data challenges of Neteera, and frankly, how you could actually help other companies to do that as well?
Robin, so BioT is a backend cloud platform, but it's important to know that it's installed on the customer's cloud account. So the data that is channeled is the customer's data. We don't have access to the data. We don't have access to any intellectual property that is being derived from that data, machine learning algorithms, etc., etc. And the challenges that they face, I mean, they monitor 24/7. So data has to travel from the device to the cloud. It has to be organized in the cloud in a manner that will allow them to do their work, in a manner that will allow them to continue the research and development by generating more algorithms, but also plugging in algorithms that will allow for the generation of insights to physicians, to patients, and those can be alerts, can be notifications, can be whatsoever. So that's exactly the part that BioT does. BioT is a generic platform. So we help our users to build their workflow. What kind of data will be received from the device? What are the normal values, or what are the accepted values? And then on top of that, yeah, you can imagine outlying values, and what happens if there's an outlying value. Do we regard it? Do we disregard it? Do we generate an alert to the physician? Do we generate an alert to the user? Do we ask the user if everything's okay? I don't know, but it's up to the company, to the device manufacturer, to build all those. We simply give simplified tools for them to configure that. It can take a day, it can take 2 days, but that's all. No programming, it all comes in templates. Templates for patients, templates for healthcare providers, the customer of the customer, and templates for different machines or for different product lines, because there's going to be different data transmitted to the cloud, and different data or different information and insight transmitted from the cloud. So it allows for digestion of large data volumes, continuous care, continuous monitoring, or spot check. Both of them are use cases of Neteera and other companies, of course. Application of algorithms in the cloud, as Rani mentioned, it makes their life easier. You don't need to update the firmware. You don't need to deal with the hardware. You know the hardware costs, and then you do everything on the cloud for every further research and development and application. You can apply AI tools by yourself. You can have a third party giving them specific access to specific attributes of data that you want to share with them, so they can help you develop these tools. So it's a sharing and having expertise from third parties incorporated into your device. And all that, obviously, this is what BioT ensures, that everything is secure, regulated and compliant with the GDPR and the HIPAA regulations, which is a complicated and getting more complicated world, because different countries in Europe are doing different things, and different states in the US are doing different things.
Yeah, very interesting. And of course, being compliant with all regulations, and especially the increased demands indeed of MDR, for example, are very interesting to learn about, and great to learn that BioT can actually help you meet these requirements in a easy, standardized, or simplified, I should say, way, while still having the freedom of having your own algorithms and your own, well, I would say back-end settings, which sparks my interest. Rani, could you tell us a little bit more of how this was translated to meet the needs of Neteera?
Yeah, as mentioned by Hanan, this is a cloud solution, very intensive as far as the user interface and the database. But we set out to bring the vital signs, the patient vital signs, and the different clinical use settings to be able to provide that to clinicians and provide valuable data. Again, using spot check, the general spot check mode that is being used today is troublesome because you don't see the trends of the patient of what's happening. This, our solution is enabling them to either monitor real time or even go back and monitor and see what has happened in the last 24, 48, or even 1 week or 1 month in the past, just to compare. So this continuous monitoring is going to be an enabler for a lot of different solutions, and making personalized medicine much easier. And our ability to fine-tune the algorithm in real time was really important. And this is the solution we worked with BioT on, and correlating the data with the clinical events, mainly in hospitals and even in home settings, was critical. So again, this is a machine learning solution. So the more data we have, the better solutions we can bring to market. And that's the stage we're at right now, conducting a lot of clinical work globally to be able to improve on that. So as you can understand, there's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle, which isn't easy. And together with BioT, we were able to bring such a solution to market.
Interesting. Hanan, what are your thoughts on this, actually?
So puzzle is the right word. BioT acts in the background to help solve the puzzle. Now, it's a different puzzle for each company, depending on the use case. And we simplify the dealing with the puzzle, if I may use Rani's allegory. Now, what we see on this slide, it's taken from the Neteera use case. It allows a nurse station to monitor many patients at once. But again, you don't expect a nurse to sit in front and monitor them 24/7, even if it's 4 in a screen or 8 in a screen. So you want to facilitate alerts on possible exacerbations. And this is something that we facilitate. It's very easily configured, depending on the use case, and it can be based on, I mentioned earlier, anything. It can be based on biomarkers, heart rate that is out of the norm for a sliding window of 5 days or 2 hours, depending. It can be based on actually on a adherence. Let's say that a patient at home is not using the device as he was supposed to. So you're not getting readings 3 times a day. So maybe after a day or two, you want to send a reminder, and maybe you want to send a questionnaire to verify why this patient is not sending the readings as he should have, because you want to understand what's the problem. Is he dead? Did he forget? Or maybe it's not so clear for him how to make the device work because the blue button is too small, or he doesn't remember if it's the blue button or the red button. Now, this is important information in order to improve and facilitate all these things. Now, nurses and physicians, they might want to look back on historical view because they didn't catch things right when they happened, or they did caught the things right when they happened, but they want to go back. So we facilitate historical views. We facilitate alerts based on a sliding window. It can be a couple of hours of biomarker behavior or a couple of days. There can be a drill down to a certain point in time, always backwards in history. And there is integrating into the existing flow, exporting data of specific events that need to be incorporated in the electronic healthcare record via integrations. Shall I continue, or there's
yeah,
a question?
please do. Very interested to learn a bit more.
So FOTA, firmware updates over there. This is the hardware part. So the software part, we mentioned a lot about keeping your algorithms on the cloud, keeping all the insights on the cloud, and then you don't need this so much to be dependent on the firmware updates. But still, you have a device, you have a hardware in the field, and you want to release firmware updates. And you want to manage that. You want to manage it by a firmware version, by a device type, maybe different regions of the world. You want to update it only in Brazil and Canada and not all across the board, or maybe only certain devices that were released in the last 2 years, 1 year, 1 month, whatever that may be. So our backend cloud platform allows to do just that. It's very easy to configure the location, the source, the status of each and every device, a region, organization, client, customer, distributor that is selling it, any type of data that you want to have about this device. You can configure in a template that is ready-made, but you can always add or subtract some things. And based on those templates, you can basically manage your fleet of devices. Firmware updates is one feature of fleet management. Now, if there's a failure, you'll get an alert. You get summary reports, what happened, what didn't happen, and what failed. So you can manage your fleet and make sure all your devices are up to date.
Well, thank you, Hanan, for elaborating a little bit more. And I think one of the key questions, Ronnie, maybe I can ask you. We have seen in the poll that in the audience we have a lot of people that are considering using a platform as a service provider. And I'm just wondering, could you tell us some of your considerations? What made you decide on partnering instead of building your own IoMT platform?
Okay, and first of all, just 1 or 2 clarifications. Our device works synchronized with the Wi-Fi system. And our device is also actually our first go-to-market use case is hospital, general wards, and intensive care units. And we also are working with nursing home and long-term care facilities. And later on, we only will go to home care. So that's just to clarify where we use the device. But launching a cloud solution is obviously, as mentioned, it's a very big task. And we were looking for a outfit that could give us proven track record for building IoT platform solutions and giving us a quicker turnaround time to market. And that's when we turned to BioT. Again, this requires a lot of resources on many different ends, as Hanan mentioned earlier on in the conversation. There's many teams involved here to be able to bring this about and to get this to market fast. And that's what we were looking for. We spent a lot of time developing the hardware, but once that was done, we were looking to see how to accelerate our go-to-market strategy and get these out. And indeed, like I mentioned, in the fall, we got our initial regulatory approvals, getting additional ones as we speak to be able to launch in global markets. And that's where we're at today.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, of course, launching or let's say accelerating your go-to-market is something that excites a lot of entrepreneurs as well as investors. So very interesting to hear. Thank you, Ronnie. And Hanan, do you have anything to add there?
Yes, one quick thing. Let's say you decided as a company to hire can you go back to the previous slide, please? To hire a lot of engineers and programmers and DevOps people to build your own IoT platform, IoT platform. Fair enough. Now you're going to go live and you're going to see some bugs. So you're going to freeze, you're going to debug, you're going to do quality assurance, and then you're going to go live again. And you'll probably see a couple of other bugs. So you're going to freeze, debug, do the QA, and go live again. So on top of a year of building the platform, you're spending more time that you didn't plan on spending and more money that you didn't plan on spending. An IoT out-of-the-box platform is already operational. It's working as we speak, supporting Neteera and other customers. So you're not going to face these freeze QA debug cycles. As soon as you press the button, you're ready in production. You're battle ready. That's one thing. The other thing is, okay, you've built it, but now you need to constantly update it, because cybersecurity is not stationary, unfortunately. There are a lot of the bad people coming with new threats and new ways of hacking, and someone needs to be on top of that and countermeasure that. So it's continuous. We're talking about privacy. So privacy regulations in a country doesn't change within a day, but these things change from country to country at different time points, and somebody needs to be on top of that. You want to scale. So right now, let's say you're selling in your home country, so you're okay with the regulation, everything's fine. But then you want to scale and start selling all over Europe or all over the US or all over the world. Who's going to make sure that the data is being transmitted compliantly to each and every country? So this is after building the platform. You need the people to keep it going, to maintain it, to keep it up to date. And all these things are included in BioT's business model. And maybe it's the place to mention that our business model is a license that includes everything we already discussed. That is quite low, allowing companies, not only big companies, to partner with us, and then it raises according to the amount of connected devices. So basically, as our customer scales and becomes more profitable and growth to be from a startup to a scale up to a big company, BioT facilitate that growth, accelerate that growth, and also profits from that growth. So we are both aligning the business models so we can grow together.
Very interesting.
This slide is just, I guess, a quick summary of all the benefits, but I think we've discussed everything that is on this slide. If there's a specific question, obviously, I'm happy to take.
Yeah, of course. Well, speaking of questions, Hanan and Ronnie, I hope you're willing to take some more questions from the audience. Speaking to the audience, we have already received a couple of questions in the chat, but if you have any questions, please do ask them now in the chat as well. If you would like to address them specifically to Rani or Hanan, please do mention this also. Maybe I can give the word to Gijs, my colleague and co-moderator. You have received a question from the audience, if I'm not mistaken. Could you please read that question out to the speakers?
Right. So we have Tomer asking regarding the connectivity between the device and the cloud. The Neteera example is a home use device which connects to the cloud through the mobile network. What about devices that are typically located in a hospital? Hanan, I think this is a question for you.
Rani already mentioned that they started in hospitals, and that's the first use case, and then they will go to home monitoring. So the answer basically Rani already gave it, but we have other customers that have devices that go to hospitals. Now, indeed, hospitals are a little bit trickier, because if you go with a home device, then the most common is using a most common method of transmitting the data to the cloud is either a gateway or going via an SDK through the phone or Bluetooth connecting to the phone. Hospitals, it's a little bit trickier, but it depends again. If the device is stationary, then it can be connected to the Wi-Fi of the hospital. If it's not stationary, then maybe it's better to put a SIM card to follow the patient. If it's not going to be in areas of reception, then a SIM card is not going to be a good example. So the challenges are on the side of how to transmit the data. And Neteera already solved that in a way that fits their use case. But other use cases might require other solutions. As far as BioT is concerned, once the data is transmitted by any means selected, we're good with it. We can digest it, or we can digest it for you and let you deal with the data, etc., etc.
Fantastic. So summarizing, also very much suitable for hospital-located devices, as long as you transmit the data to the platform. And I think in the meantime, we received another question. Gijs, could you read out this question as well?
Yeah, this is the question from Evan, and is interested in whether you are also active in FHIR compatibility.
FHIR compatibility.
First of all, yes, HL7 would be the completing of this question. HL7, FHIR are both protocols that are supposed to make integrations to hospital data systems easier. Right now, it's not really the case, but it is an initiative, and in a couple of months, we will support FHIR and HL7. Just keep in mind that most of the hospitals don't work this way. It's when you're dealing with electronic medical records, it's a jungle. Each hospital and each EMR provider, they do whatever they want at the moment. Obviously, there's a need to certain standards. FHIR, HL7 are two examples. We are incorporating them, but they don't really answer for 100% of the market, more like 15% of the market in a good day.
All right. Thank you for elaborating, Hanan. Just if you want to ask more questions, please go ahead. We still have a bit of time on our hands. Gijs, what else came in?
Yeah, one of the questions is also, what if BioT actually goes bankrupt or something happens and BioT goes out of business? What happens to the platform? And this is, of course, a business risk. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, let's hope this does not happen, of course. But Hanan, if it does, what are the risks and how can we mitigate them?
So hoping it doesn't, but we mitigate those risks on a contractual level. Basically, if BioT cannot provide its services, then the platform stays in the hand of the customer. So his day-to-day is not affected. The only things that will be affected are the privacy maintenance and the cybersecurity maintenance. Now, if we cannot provide that because we cease to exist, then we cannot provide that. So they have to turn to someone else who knows how to keep privacy and cybersecurity intact. But the database is on the customer's cloud, so it stays intact. The data keeps being transmitted to that cloud. The algorithms and the plugins that we provided via the platform are still there. So basically, the day-to-day, the day after this unfortunate event is going to look exactly the same. Down the road, you need to take care of cybersecurity and follow privacy changes and follow CPT reimbursement code changes, but these things don't happen in a day.
No, well, thank you, and good to hear that you can actually get the platform in your own hands. And of course, you need to start doing a lot of monitoring of changing regulations. And while you were actually answering this, another question came in, which was on this privacy and cybersecurity maintenance. How exactly is this being done and updated?
So once the platform is deployed on the customer's cloud account, there is a maintenance access that is given to BioT, and we maintain all the platforms of the different customers wherever they are employed in the same way. So once we have a security update or a privacy update, we simply update the platform, and this is how we make sure the platforms are compliant to cybersecurity regulation and privacy regulation, and also resilient to cybersecurity threats and accommodating regulatory changes. Contractually, we sign a business associate agreement that transfers the risk for cybersecurity from the medical device manufacturer to BioT, because we are the one in charge to mitigate that. And of course, we have the lawyers, the know-how, and the insurance to deal with unfortunate event in that niche. Same regarding data privacy, we sign is our standard agreement, a DPA agreement. It's a data processing agreement, which allows or puts BioT in charge of processing the data being transmitted from the patient, from the device for the customer. And in case of mishandling of the data or any damages because of that, again, the risk is being transferred from the medical device company to BioT's shoulders, and we have the people to deal with it, the know-how and the insurance policy that we need to have in place in order to deal with unfortunate events.
All right, thank you, Hanan. And then Rani, a question to you then, because you mentioned that actually your the development time or the time to market was shortened because you partnered with a platform as a service provider. Do you have any like an estimated guess of how much time this actually saved you?
Well, first of all, we needed to bring in some expertise we didn't have in-house. So that in itself saved time. And also the experience saved time in development. I haven't really given thought to how much this would have saved, but surely saved time and money as far as development. And I think, as Hanan mentioned before, I think one of the most important things today, well, there's a lot of important pieces to this puzzle, but the patient data privacy is an important piece, and it changes in geographies. Again, Hanan mentioned that, and that was an important piece that we needed to solve, and we got that sort of solution as well. You know, also saving the patient data for records is important. Obviously, as far as patient data privacy is concerned, we don't save patient data with particular names or ID numbers. So there's full patient data privacy, but we do save the data for the institutions, whether hospital, nursing homes, or other care taking facilities to be able to look back at specific patients and look at their trends and how they've gone through their ailments. So again, I can go on in the different pieces of the puzzle, but I think this definitely saved a lot of time in learning all of these disciplines, each one of them separately.
All right. I think thank you, Ronnie, for elaborating. And we have another question that just came in, which is from Marco. And Marco is asking, apart from plugging in your own AI algorithms, what kind of customization does the BioT platform allow? So maybe, I don't know, Hanan, this is best answered by you.
So the whole purpose of our platform is that it is generic to support multiple use cases. It can be a professional device for surgery, or a professional device for private clinics, or a home care device for the common user, not a professional one. It can be for continuous monitoring, or 2 times a day monitoring, or 2 times a day treatment, or only to get a treatment when you come to the clinic or when you're hospitalized in the hospital. So we must allow for a very high degree of customization of everything. Now, when I say everything, you have to draw the line and what would be the border of this customization. So you can customize almost everything as long as it doesn't go into the domain of data breach. So you cannot utilize data that you're not supposed to have. And as long as it doesn't cause a cybersecurity breach. Those are the lines that we draw. And in some features, there's a complete freedom. In some features, there is less freedom to customize. But customization is the key. We provide the building blocks for the companies to build their workflows and their clinical pathways. Each device and each clinical pathway is different, yet they can utilize the same building blocks in a different manner. That's what we supply. It's a sort of a Wix for websites. You want to build your websites, but you don't want it to look like all the others. So you're using the building blocks that they're provided, and you customize it to have the look and the feel that you want.
All right, so very customizable within the set borders of data security and cybersecurity. Gijs, I think another question came in, didn't it?
Yeah, another question. Peter is asking how you deal with patent protected AIs and how they are still being protected while being on the platform of BioT.
Fair question. Now, for companies who developed their or trained their algorithms based on the data, again, we need to remember this is the customer cloud account. They are the ones who have the access, and they are the ones who know what's happening there. Once there's an algorithm that they developed, it is not visible for BioT, so it's proprietary information. It stays with the company. We provide a plugin, but we will wrap it in a Lambda function for those of you who know what's a Lambda function, and then it allows it to function properly from the cloud. We don't see the algorithm, we don't know the algorithm, and it stays protected the same way that the data that is being transmitted, it's a proprietary of the customer, and we don't have access to it. We don't want to have access to it, because then it's a breach of privacy.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think protecting your proprietary AI algorithms is something that concerns all entrepreneurs and investors. And where is this data stored exactly, Hanan, or actually all the data that's processed on the platform?
So it depends on the choice of the customer. We can deploy it in Europe, we can deploy it in the US, East Coast, West Coast, we can deploy it in Asia. That's up to the customer to decide. And usually what drives the decision of the customer is the markets he wants to sell into, because the patient's data in Europe cannot travel outside of Europe. So if Europe is your target, better having a deployment somewhere in Europe. If US is your target market, then if you have a preference for the East Coast, West Coast, then that's what's going to guide your deployment. For us, it's the same.
Yeah. So even if you serve multiple continents, at some point you could store data of those specific patients in the continent that you're active in.
True. We can do multiple geographies.
Fantastic. Maybe just if there's any questions from the audience that just popped into your mind, please do take this last opportunity to ask them to our honored guests today. If there is a last question, please do let us hear it now. Otherwise, I think we are going towards the end of this webinar for today. Any last questions? No, then let's go to the thank you slide. So of course, I want to take the opportunity, Rani and Hanan, to thank you so much for sharing your insights and your learnings today about this interesting topic. We have heard some interesting stories actually about the technical side of BioT, but also about the case study of Neteera and how they use their partnership with BioT to solve their challenges. And I also want to thank, of course, the audience for participating so actively. It's been a pleasure to answer your questions and to hear your thoughts in the poll. You will be getting a recording of this webinar if you feel you want to watch some of the content again. You'll be having access to the slides, and of course, we cordially invite you to reach out to BioT or to Neteera if you have any follow-up questions. And I also want to finally thank our co-hosts, Medical Valley, for hosting this webinar together with us at MedScaler. Any last remarks, Rani, Hanan, from your side about today?
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for having me today. I think you made Medical Valley and MedScaler and BioT, and I'm sure we'll cooperate in the future.
I do hope so. Thank you so much. And Hanan, any or Benjamin or Jonas, anything you want to add here?
On my side, just thank yous to MedScaler, to Medical Valley, to Neteera, to Rani for showing up and joining us and sharing his experience. And thank you to the audience that came to hear what we wanted to talk about.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Very informative.
Thank you. And to those, depending on where you are in the time zone, I wish you a great evening or a great rest of the day ahead. And thank you for watching.